It is 2:14 a.m. on a freezing Tuesday in Boston. Outside, the wind is howling, throwing icy sleet against the single-pane window of our cramped dorm room. Inside, it is suffocatingly hot. Not because the heater is actually working for once, but because there is 190 pounds of pure infuriating frat boy muscle plastered to my back. I am lying stiff as a board on the edge of my narrow twin bed. Caleb's heavy arm is slung over my waist, locking me in place like a vice. His chest is pressed flush against my spine, radiating a ridiculous amount of body heat. But the worst part is not the suffocating grip, it is his face. Caleb's nose is buried entirely into the crook of my neck, his hot breath ghosting across my skin in slow, deliberate rhythms. Every few seconds, he takes a deep, dragging inhale like he is trying to suck the oxygen straight out of my veins. I know exactly what he is doing. I switched to a cedarwood body wash 3 days ago, and ever since Caleb has been acting like a bloodhound off his leash. He claims he is a sleepwalker. He claims the dorm is too cold, his bed is too hard, and his subconscious just naturally seeks out warmth. It is a pathetic excuse, but for the past 2 years of nursing a painful secret crush on my excruciatingly straight roommate, I've let him get away with it. But tonight is different, because right now, beneath the heavy weight of his arm, I can feel his chest rising and falling. More importantly, pressed right against my shoulder blade, I can feel the frantic, hammering rhythm of his heart pounded with a heavy, rhythmic thump. It is way too fast for a guy who is supposedly deep in REM sleep. He is wide awake, and he is doing this on purpose. I close my eyes, trying to force my own breathing to steady. How the hell did we even get here? To understand the sheer absurdity of my current situation, you have to rewind 14 hours earlier. It was noon, and I was exhausted. Being best friends with Caleb is basically a full-time job. He is loud, he is tactile, and he has zero concept of personal space. After spending the entire morning dealing with his usual routine, him throwing an arm around my shoulders in the dining hall, stealing fries off my plate, and casually calling me baby in front of his football buddies, I needed an escape. I needed a boundary before my heart completely gave out. So I locked myself in the dorm, slipped on my noise-canceling headset, and booted up Apex Legends. I am not a pro by any means, which is exactly why I play ranked matches with Tyler. Tyler is a guy I met online a few months ago. He is a senior law student, apparently goes to a university somewhere on the East Coast, and has a voice so deep and smooth, it could probably talk someone out of a hostage situation. More importantly, Tyler is attentive. He does not treat me like a bro. "Careful on your left, Ash." Tyler's low voice crackled through my headset, steady and reassuring. "Drop your healing drone. Don't worry about the push. I've got you covered." "I am out of heavy ammo," I muttered aggressively, clicking my mouse, a rare, genuine smile creeping onto my face. "Take mine," Tyler replied instantly. "I will always share with my favorite little support. Just stay behind me." I was about to laugh and tell him to shut up when the dorm room door practically exploded open. A gust of freezing hallway air rushed in, carrying the harsh scent of sweat winter air and artificial turf. I did not need to turn around to know it was Caleb. He had just finished football practice. Normally, this would be the part where he drops his gym bag, complains about the cold, and tackles me from behind, burying his sweaty face into my hair until I shoved him off. But this time, there was only silence. I pulled one earphone off, glancing over my shoulder. Caleb was standing dead center in the room. His broad shoulders were tense under his gray hoodie, his jaw ticking. He was staring at the glowing screen of my monitor, specifically at the little voice indicator blinking next to Tyler's username. He had heard the whole exchange. My favorite little support. "You busy?" Caleb asked. His voice was unusually flat, stripped of all its normal golden retriever enthusiasm. "Middle of a ranked match," I said, turning back to my screen, trying to play it cool. "Give me 10 minutes. "Who is that?" he demanded, taking a heavy step closer. "Just a friend. We are pushing a squad, Caleb. Seriously, hold on." A loud smash echoed through the room. The sound of his heavy cleat-filled duffel bag slamming violently onto the hardwood floor made me flinch. Tyler was saying something in my ear, asking if everything was okay, but I could not process it. I felt the heat of Caleb's body before I saw him. He stepped right behind my gaming chair, looming over me like a thundercloud. He did not say a word. He just stood there, arms crossed, staring daggers at my monitor. The hostility radiating off him was so thick you could choke on it. He did not leave to shower. He did not check his phone. He just stood there, breathing heavily down my neck for the remaining 10 minutes of the match, an unspoken declaration of war. And now here we are, 2:14 a.m. I shift slightly on the mattress, pretending to adjust my blanket. Caleb's arm instantly tightens around my waist, a sharp, possessive flinch, pulling my back flush against his chest again. He lets out a low, breathy hum, burying his nose deeper into the scent of cedarwood on my skin. He is completely awake. He is practically suffocating me. And the terrifying part is, I do not think he plans on ever letting go. The silent war has officially begun. And God help me, I do not know if I want to win or lose. The next morning, the suffocating tension of the night before vanished the second the sun hit our window, or rather, it morphed into something entirely different. I woke up shivering. Caleb was already gone, having presumably untangled his massive limbs for me before my alarm went off. The only evidence he had been there was the lingering smell of his deodorant on my sheets and a rogue pillow shoved halfway off the bed. It was infuriating how easily he could switch modes. At 2 a.m., he was an obsessive, touch-starved menace. By 9 a.m., he was just Caleb, the loud, oblivious frat boy who thought personal space was a myth. And today, that myth was completely shattered. The shift in his behavior was immediate and aggressively annoying. Normally, Caleb had a packed schedule. Between football practice, economics lectures he barely attended, and whatever frat events were happening at the Alpha Delta house, I usually got a solid 3 hours of quiet time in the afternoon. Not today. I had barely logged into Discord and put on my headset when the dorm door swung open. Caleb ambled in a half-eaten bag of Doritos in hand. He did not drop his bag on his bed. He did not go to his desk. He walked straight over to my chair and leaned his entire upper body over the backrest. "What you doing?" he asked, crunching loudly in my ear. "Breathing. Trying to exist. Also playing ranked," I said flatly, keeping my eyes on the screen. "With that guy, Tyler," Caleb's voice dropped a fraction of an octave. He leaned closer, his chin practically resting on the crown of my head. The sheer weight of him was throwing off my posture. "Yes, with Tyler. Now back off, my squad is dropping." "Cool, I am playing too." Before I could even process the absurdity of that statement, Caleb hated Apex, claiming it required too much thinking and not enough shooting. He dragged his desk chair over, wedging it so close to mine that our knees bumped. He booted up his painfully dusty laptop, downloaded the game update at record speed, and forcefully invited himself to our lobby. Hey, Ash, who is the third?" Tyler's smooth East Coast drawl came through my headset. "Did you invite a random—" "Not a random," Caleb barked into his own mic before I could answer. "I am his roommate. We go way back. Best bros." The emphasis on best bros was so thick it could have choked a horse. I rubbed my temples, already feeling a migraine forming. "Just ignore him, Ty. Let's drop." The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Caleb did not just play badly, he played with weaponized incompetence. He sprinted in the wrong direction. He fired his gun at random walls, giving away our position. But his worst offense was his absolute refusal to leave my side in the game. "Ash, I need heals," Caleb yelled into the mic, ignoring the fact that he was sitting 2 feet away from me. "Come heal me. Do not go with that guy. I am dying over here." "You literally ran into a full squad with 0 armor, Caleb." I snapped my fingers, flying over the keyboard. "Tyler is holding the choke point. I have to support him." "Let him hold it himself. I am your roommate, bros, before random's Ash. Come revive me." Tyler, bless his patient soul, chuckled softly over the comms. "It is fine, Ash. Go pick up your puppy. I will hold the angle." Caleb slammed his hand on the desk, rattling my monitor. "I am not a puppy man," he growled into the mic, his voice losing all its playful cadence. "Listen up, buddy. He plays support for me. Go find someone else to carry." "Caleb." I ripped my headset off, glaring at him. "Are you insane? Why are you acting like this? You do not even like this game." "I like it fine." He shot back, his jaw tight. He would not look at me, keeping his eyes glued to his game over screen. "I just do not get why you would rather spend your afternoon talking to some internet stranger instead of hanging out with me." "Because you were supposed to be at practice," I argued, throwing my hands up. "And because Tyler does not hover over me like a helicopter parent." Caleb finally looked at me, his hazel eyes flashing with a strange defensive hurt. "I do not hover. You are literally stepping on my foot right now." He glanced down. His sneaker was firmly planted over my socked foot. Instead of moving it, he just dug his heel in a little harder. "My side of the room is cold," he muttered, the lamest excuse in the history of mankind. I rolled my eyes, turning back to the screen to apologize to Tyler, but as I reached for my headset, Caleb moved. His large hand clamped over my wrist, stopping me. His grip was not painful, but it was incredibly firm. "Do not put it back on yet," he said softly. I froze. My pulse spiked, hammering against the pressure of his fingers on my skin. "Caleb, let go." He did not. Instead, he leaned forward, invading my personal space until I could smell the familiar mix of his laundry detergent and the faint sweat from his morning workout. His eyes dropped to my lips for a fraction of a second before snapping back up to my eyes. "You've been acting weird since yesterday," he murmured, his thumb absent-mindedly stroking the pulse point on my wrist. The gesture was so casual, yet so paralyzingly intimate. Are you mad at me or something?" "I am not mad," I wanted to scream. "I am in love with you, you oblivious idiot, and you are making it impossible for me to move on." But I swallowed the words, forcing my face to remain impassive. "I'm not weird. You are the one throwing a tantrum over a video game. Let go of my hand." He hesitated, his thumb stilling. For a second I thought he might actually argue, but then he released me, sighing heavily as he pushed his chair back. "Whatever, man. I am going to take a shower. Tell your internet boyfriend I said hi." He stomped over to his closet, grabbed a towel, and slammed the bathroom door behind him. I let out a breath. I did not realize I was holding my wrist, still burning where his hand had been. I put my headset back on my hands, slightly shaking. "Everything okay over there?" Tyler asked gently. "Yeah," I lied, staring at the closed bathroom door. "Just my roommate being a dramatic frat boy. Let's queue up again." Sure." Tyler paused, the faint sound of him clicking his mouse coming through the line. "He is pretty territorial, isn't he?" I found my heart doing a weird flip. Territorial Caleb. No, he is just clingy. He is like that with everyone. "If you say so, Ash." Tyler chuckled, though it sounded a bit dry. "But from where I am sitting, he sounds like a guy who is very aware of what is his and very unhappy that someone else is looking at it." I stared blankly at my monitor, the loading screen blurring before my eyes. What is his? The terrifying thought followed me for the rest of the day. It gnawed at me during my evening seminar, and it echoed in my head as I brushed my teeth that night. By the time 2 a.m. rolled around, the dorm room was pitch black and freezing again. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting. 10 minutes later, the faint creak of Caleb's mattress sounded across the room. Soft footsteps padded across the hardwood floor. I did not move. I did not breathe. The edge of my bed dipped. The heavy, suffocating warmth of Caleb's body slid behind me under the covers. His large arms snaked around my waist, pulling my back flush against his chest. He buried his face deep into my neck, inhaling the sharp scent of cedarwood, and let out a long, contented sigh. And just like last night pressed against my shoulder blade, his heart was beating a frantic, undeniable rhythm. His heart pounded with a heavy, rhythmic thump. He was not asleep. He was not mending a broken heater. He was claiming territory. And heaven help me, I was letting him. It is terrifying how a simple shift in routine can rewrite the entire dynamic of a relationship. Or in my case, how an $8 bottle of body wash can turn a supposedly straight best friend into a predator. 3 days ago, I ditched my usual generic citrus soap for something heavier, more grounded cedarwood and amber. It was an impulse buy at the campus pharmacy, a desperate attempt to feel somewhat put together while drowning in midterms. I did not think Caleb would even notice. But the moment I walked out of the shower that first night, he had stopped mid-sentence. He was rambling about some play the football coach was furious about, but the words died in his throat. He blinked, his nostrils flaring slightly, and stared at me with a low-lidded, hungry intensity that sent a violent shiver straight down my spine. Now his obsession is no longer subtle. It is a full-blown physical assault on my boundaries. I'm sitting at my desk trying to decipher a macroeconomic theory when the door bangs open. Caleb stomps in from afternoon practice, shivering and complaining loudly about the brutal Boston wind chill. He strips off his sweaty practice jersey right in the middle of the room, leaving it in a heap on the floor. Normally, he would go to his closet and grab one of his 50 expensive frat-branded sweatshirts. Instead, he bypasses his side of the room entirely. He walks straight to my laundry basket, specifically the clean pile I have not folded yet, and pulls out my favorite faded gray hoodie. "Dude, you have your own clothes," I point out, not looking up from my laptop, though my pulse is already accelerating. He pulls the hoodie over his head, struggling slightly as the fabric stretches tight across his broad shoulders. He buries his nose deep into the collar and inhales audibly. "Yours is softer," he mutters, though the faint pink flush creeping up his neck tells a different story. "And it smells like that new soap you're using. It calms me down." He wears my scent like a badge of honor out the door. It is infuriating. It is intoxicating. Later that evening, the psychological warfare escalates to a whole new level. I'm on Discord playing a few rounds with Tyler. Tyler has been getting bolder lately, his deep voice carrying a teasing, affectionate lilt that I usually enjoy. Thanksgiving is coming up. Tyler purrs through my headset, his character covering mine as we push a choke point. "I was thinking of sending a care package to your dorm. What is your favorite snack, Ash? I want to treat my favorite support." Before I can formulate a witty reply, the bathroom door clicks open. Caleb steps out. He is wearing nothing but a pair of low-slung gray sweatpants, a towel draped over his shoulders, his dark curls dripping wet. He sees me at the desk, catches the soft murmur of Tyler's voice leaking from my ear cups, and his entire demeanor shifts. His jaw clenches, his eyes darkening like a storm front rolling in. He does not go to his bed to dry off. He walks straight to me. I freeze as he looms behind my gaming chair. He leans down, planting his large hands on both armrests, effectively caging me in. He does not say a single word. He just lowers his head, bearing his wet, cold face directly into the crook of my neck. I gasp softly, my hands freezing on the keyboard. He takes a long, dragging inhale, his stubble scraping agonizingly against my sensitive skin. "You smell so fucking good," Caleb whispers, his voice a rough, gravelly vibration that reverberates against my collarbone. I cannot focus on anything else. He says it quietly, but the proximity ensures the microphone picks up the low, intimate rumble of his voice. "Ash, did someone just say something?" Tyler asks, his smooth tone faltering, replaced by clear confusion. Caleb smirks against my skin. He presses a deliberate wet barely there kiss right behind my ear, a blatant silent provocation before pushing off the chair and sauntering over to his bed, as if he had not just short-circuited my entire nervous system. By 2 a.m., my mind is completely fried. The Boston cold is unforgiving, the wind howling against the frosted glass of our window. I lie awake in the dark, staring at the wall, waiting for the inevitable. 10 minutes later, the floorboards creak. The mattress dips under a sudden familiar weight. Caleb slides under the covers, bringing with him a wave of furnace-like body heat. He reaches out his heavy arm, wrapping around my waist, preparing to pull my back flush against his chest, just like he has done every night this week. But tonight, I do not let him. Driven by a sudden reckless surge of adrenaline, I decide I am done playing the victim in his game. Before his arm can fully lock me into place, I shift. I roll over, flipping onto my other side so that I am completely face-to-face with him. We are inches apart in the pitch black. My nose is practically brushing against his. I can feel the erratic flutter of his warm breath against my lips. I expect him to flinch. I expect him to stammer an excuse about sleepwalking panic and roll away to his side of the bed. But he does not. Caleb freezes, his hazel eyes wide, catching the faint amber glow of the street lamp filtering through the blinds. He does not retreat a single inch. His gaze drops to my lips, his jaw tight, his chest rising and falling heavily. Pressed against me, his heart is hammering a frantic, undeniable rhythm. We stay like that, suspended in the dark, breathing the same air. The boundary between just bros and something entirely different is hanging by a thread, so thin I am terrified it is about to snap. And heaven help me, I want it to. The morning after our near miss in the dark, the air in the dorm room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Caleb did not say a word about the fact that we had spent 10 minutes practically breathing the same oxygen noses brushing in the pitch black. He just got up, took an agonizingly long shower, and left for class with his jaw locked tight. For the next 2 days, we existed in a state of hyper-aware avoidance. Thanksgiving break was just around the corner and the campus was slowly emptying out as students headed home for the holidays. I was staying behind to catch up on coursework, and Caleb, who usually flew back to Chicago, had surprisingly announced he was staying in Boston too. He claimed he had extra football conditioning, but the way he glared at my computer screen when he said it told a different story. It all finally boils over on a freezing Thursday afternoon. I am sitting at my desk, finishing up an assignment with Discord open on my second monitor. Tyler and I are not gaming today. We are just talking. For the first time since we met online, Tyler asked me to turn on my webcam so he could put a face to the voice. I gotta say, Ash, Tyler's smooth, deep voice flows through my speakers. I am not wearing my headset today. You look exactly how I imagined, just a little more sleep-deprived. I laugh, leaning back in my chair and running a hand through my messy hair. Thanks, Ty. Midterms are kicking my ass. Boston winters do not help either. Wait. Tyler pauses. On the screen, his dark eyes narrow as he leans closer to his own camera, inspecting the background of my video feed. Boston, are you in a dorm right now? Look at the brickwork around that window. Is that West Hall? My stomach drops a little. Yeah, how do you know that? Tyler lets out a rich, genuine laugh. Ash, you have got to be kidding me. I told you I go to school on the East Coast. I am a senior here. I am in the law building across the quad. The revelation hits me like a freight train. For months, I thought Tyler was hundreds of miles away, a safe digital distraction, but he is here. He breathes the same freezing campus air I do. No way. I breathe out, genuinely shocked. Yes way. Tyler smiles a charming lopsided grin. Look, since you're staying for Thanksgiving, let's make this real. Saturday afternoon, that little coffee shop near the library. Let me buy my favorite support player a drink. An actual date, Ash. What do you say? My heart does a nervous stutter. An actual date. A real guy who is openly interested in me, who does not play games, who does not use me as a human body pillow while claiming to be straight. I open my mouth to say yes. I never get the chance. A shadow falls over me. Before my brain can register the movement, a large, calloused hand slams down on the top of my laptop. A violent slam resounded as the plastic casing snapped shut. The screen goes black. Tyler's voice is instantly cut off. I jolt back in my chair, my heart leaping into my throat. Caleb is standing over me. I had not even heard him come back from the gym. He is towering above my desk, his chest heaving, his knuckles white where his hand is still pressing my laptop into the desk. His hazel eyes are wild, burning with a furious, unhinged intensity that I have never seen before. What the hell is wrong with you? I yell, shoving my chair back and jumping to my feet. You could have broken my screen. You are not going. Caleb growls, his voice a low, vibrating threat that completely ignores my outrage. Excuse me. I said you are not going on a date with that guy. You are not meeting him, Ash. He takes a step closer, his broad frame effectively trapping me between the desk and his body. The scent of winter air sweat and my cedarwood body wash radiates off him in waves. My shock instantly morphs into blinding anger. I shove both of my hands hard against his chest, trying to push him back. It is like pushing a brick wall. He does not budge an inch. Get out of my way, Caleb. I shout, my voice trembling with adrenaline. You do not get to dictate my life. You do not own me. I am not letting you go meet some random older guy from the internet. He fires back his hands, coming up to grip my upper arms. His hold is tight possessive. He is a senior Ash. He just wants to play you. You are staying here with me. It is none of your business what he wants. I scream, finally tearing myself out of his grip. The emotional dam I have been holding back for 2 years completely shatters. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot play this agonizing game of pretend. Why do you care? I demand, my chest-heaving tears of sheer frustration burning the back of my eyes. You are straight, Caleb. You are a straight frat boy. You get to go out on weekends. You get to flirt with the cheerleaders. You get to live your perfect, normal life. Why the hell are you doing this to me? Caleb freezes. The anger in his face flickers, replaced by a sudden jarring shock. You pull me into your bed. You wear my clothes. You practically suffocate me every single night. And then you wake up and call me your bro. I step toward him, pointing a shaking finger at his chest. You do not get to have it both ways. You do not get to keep me on a leash just because you like the attention. If you do not want me, then let me find someone who actually does. The room falls dead silent. The only sound is the violent whistling of the wind against the frosted window pane. Caleb stares at me. His chest is rising and falling in shallow, erratic gasps. His eyes map my face, taking in my flushed cheeks, my trembling hands, the desperate, furious tears threatening to spill over. He opens his mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. Because I am right, and he knows it. He has absolutely no right to stop me. His jaw clenches so hard I can hear his teeth grind. The redness in his eyes is not just anger anymore. It looks dangerously close to devastation. He does not apologize. He does not confess. He just slowly backs away from me, his hands dropping to his sides like dead weights. He grabs his heavy winter jacket off his bed, turns on his heel, and walks out the door. The heavy oak door slams shut behind him, shaking the thin dorm walls. I'm left standing alone in the suffocating silence of the room, my heart breaking for the 100th time, staring at the closed door while the snow begins to fall outside. For 3 agonizing days, our dorm room turns into a tomb. The suffocating tension that usually hung between us is gone, replaced by a vast, freezing emptiness that feels infinitely worse. Caleb and I exist in the same cramped square footage, but we might as well be on different planets. We do not speak. We barely make eye contact. He wakes up before my alarm leaves without a word and comes back only when I am already pretending to be asleep. The heavy furnace-like warmth that used to press against my back at 2 a.m. is gone, and heaven help me, I have never felt so desperately bitterly cold. Saturday afternoon finally arrives. The campus is practically a ghost town as I push open the heavy glass doors of the coffee shop near the library. The bell chimes, and I immediately spot Tyler sitting in a corner booth. He is exactly as I pictured, but somehow even more put together in person. He is wearing a tailored charcoal overcoat, his dark hair neatly styled, holding a steaming cup of coffee with the easy, confident posture of a guy who has his entire life mapped out. When he sees me, his face lights up with a genuinely warm, charming smile. "Ash," he greets, standing up to pull out a chair for me. "You made it. I took a guess and ordered you a hazelnut latte. I remembered you mentioning it on stream." "That is wow." "Thank you, Ty," I say, taking a seat and wrapping my freezing hands around the warm mug. On paper, this is everything I have ever wanted. Tyler is handsome, mature, attentive, and openly interested in me. He asks about my classes, listens intently when I talk, and does not flinch or look around the room when he casually reaches across the table to brush a stray crumb off my knuckles. There are no mixed signals, no agonizing mind games. But as the hour ticks by, a sickening realization begins to settle heavily in the pit of my stomach. Tyler is telling a funny story about his torts professor, but the words are blurring together. My eyes keep drifting to the window, watching the snowfall, my mind violently pulling me back to a cramped dorm room. I find myself wondering if Caleb went to practice today. I wonder if he is eating. I wonder if he is wearing his own clothes, or if he is clutching my faded gray hoodie again. I take a sip of my latte. It tastes too sweet. I suddenly miss the sharp, stale smell of artificial turf and cheap sports drinks. "Ash!" I blink, snapping my attention back to Tyler. He's looking at me, his head tilted slightly, a soft, perceptive smile on his face. He is not angry, just deeply observant. "Sorry," I flush, rubbing the back of my neck. "I spaced out. Midterm brain rot." "You are an awful liar, Ash." Tyler chuckles softly, leaning back in the booth. "You have checked your phone 4 times in the last 20 minutes, and unless I am drastically misreading the situation, you aren't thinking about midterms." He pauses, his dark eyes studying my face. It is him, isn't it? The territorial roommate. My breath hitches. I want to deny it. I want to tell Tyler he is crazy, that Caleb is just an overbearing frat boy who ruined my week. But the words die in my throat. I look down at my hands, the bitter truth finally crushing whatever denial I had left. I did not say yes to this date because I wanted to move on. I said yes because I wanted Caleb to stop me. "I am sorry, Tyler," I whisper, the guilt washing over me. You are amazing, really, but I think my head is somewhere else right now." Tyler lets out a gentle sigh, though his smile remains kind. "It is all right, Ash. For what it is worth, I think the guy is an idiot for letting you walk out the door today." He stands up, tossing a few bills onto the table. "Go home, sort it out, and if he does not get his act together, you know where to find me." I walk back to the dorm in a daze, the freezing Boston wind biting at my cheeks. By the time I push open the heavy oak door to our room, the sun has completely set. The lights are off. I flip the switch, expecting the room to be empty. It is not. Caleb is sitting on the edge of his bed. He is still wearing his street clothes jeans and a black thermal shirt, but his football duffel bag is sitting untouched by the door. He did not go to practice. He has not gone anywhere. He looks wrecked. The golden retriever energy that defines him has been completely hollowed out. There are dark circles under his hazel eyes, his posture slumped, his shoulders entirely defeated. In his hands, gripped so tightly his knuckles are white, is my faded gray hoodie. He looks up when the light hits him. His eyes map my face, taking in my styled hair, my nice coat, the faint flush on my cheeks from the cold. He swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing, but he does not say a single word. He just drops his gaze back to the floor, his jaw clenching as if physically bracing himself against a blow. I stand by the door, my heart shattering all over again. I want to yell at him. I want to tell him the date was a disaster and that all I could think about was him. But I do not. He made his choice on Thursday. He chose his straight, perfect, normal life. I quietly take off my coat change into my sweatpants and turn off the main light. I climb into my narrow twin bed, turning my back to the room, pulling the blankets up to my chin. The silence stretches for hours. I lie awake in the dark, staring at the frosted window pane, the exhaustion settling deep into my bones. It is over. The war is over, and we both lost. I glance at the glowing red numbers of my alarm clock. 2:14 a.m. Right on cue, the floorboards creak across the room. My breath catches in my throat. For a second, a desperate, pathetic spark of hope flares in my chest. Hope that the mattress will dip, that his heavy arm will pull me back, that the scent of cedar wood will fill the space between us again. But the bed does not move. Instead, there is a soft, muffled thud right beside me. Caleb has not climbed into the bed. He has dropped to his knees on the hardwood floor. I freeze my eyes wide in the pitch black. My right arm is dangling slightly off the edge of the mattress. Suddenly, I feel the ghost of a touch. Then the heavy, trembling weight of a forehead pressing directly into the palm of my hand. He is shivering. The large, muscular frat boy who acts like he owns the world is kneeling on the cold floor, pressing his face into my hand like a lifeline. I can feel the soft texture of his dark curls against my skin. I can feel the erratic, shallow hitches of his breath. And then I feel something wet slide across my knuckles. "I am sorry," Caleb whispers into the dark. His voice is a broken, ragged rasp, so quiet it is barely audible over the howling wind outside. "God, Ash, I am so sorry. Please do not go with him, just please." My heart stops. I slowly open my eyes, turning my head on the pillow to look down into the dark. I stare down into the pitch black, my heart hammering against my ribs so violently, I am sure it is echoing in the silent room. The moisture on my knuckles is a shocking, visceral reality. Caleb is crying. The impenetrable, cocky football player who acts like he rules the campus is on his knees, shedding quiet, ragged tears into the palm of my hand. The sheer weight of his vulnerability completely paralyzes me. "Caleb," I whisper, my voice cracking in the dark. He flinches violently, a sharp intake of breath rattling in his chest. He tries to pull his head away, likely hit by a sudden crushing wave of humiliation, but I do not let him retreat. Not this time. Driven by an adrenaline I did not know I possessed, I throw off my heavy blankets. The freezing air of the room bites at my skin, but I do not care. I sit up, swinging my legs over the edge of the narrow mattress and reach down into the dark. I grab him by the shoulders of his thermal shirt. "Get up." I command, my voice low but entirely steady. He resists for a fraction of a second, his massive frame rigid before he finally yields. I pull him upward, forcing him to rise from the floor and sit beside me on the edge of my twin bed. The mattress groans under our combined weight. In the faint amber glow of the street lamp filtering through the frosted window, he looks absolutely devastated. His broad shoulders are hunched, his head bowed, his hands resting limply between his knees. The faint tear tracks catching the light on his cheekbones make my chest ache so fiercely I can barely breathe. "Look at me," I say. He slowly shakes his head, his jaw clenching. "Ash, do not, please. No more hiding, Caleb." I say, shifting closer until our knees knock together. The contact makes him shudder. "No more games. No more frat boy bullshit about being too cold or sleepwalking. Tell me why you're on the floor begging me not to go." Silence stretches between us, thick and suffocating. I can hear the frantic, uneven rhythm of his breathing. For a terrifying second, I think he is going to shut down, that he is going to build his walls back up and walk out the door again. But then he lifts his head. His hazel eyes meet mine, completely stripped of all their usual golden retriever arrogance. There is nothing left but raw, bleeding honesty. "Because I am losing my mind," he rasps, his voice trembling. "I lied, Ash. I lied about all of it. I have not been sleeping for weeks. Every single night I waited until your breathing leveled out just so I could have an excuse to touch you, to smell you, to pull you against me. It was the only way I could have you without you pushing me away." My breath hitches. Hearing the words out loud, hearing the absolute desperation in his voice, sends a violent shockwave straight to my core. I thought I was straight. Caleb continues his words, spilling out in a frantic broken rush like a dam bursting wide open. I swear to God, Ash, for 20 years I thought I knew exactly who I was. But then you started pulling away. You changed your soap. You started talking to that guy on the computer, and every time he made you smile, I wanted to put my fist through a wall. He reaches out his trembling hands, grasping my wrists, holding onto me like he is drowning. When you walked out that door today to go meet him, Caleb chokes out a fresh tear, spilling over his lashes. I felt like I was physically dying. I sat here for hours, staring at the wall, realizing that the thought of him touching you, of him holding you the way I do it, broke me. I do not care about the frat. I do not care about girls. I do not know what the hell is wrong with me, but I just want you. Only you. He drops his head, his forehead resting against my collarbone, his entire body shaking with the force of his confession. I am so sorry, Ash. I am so sorry I put you through hell, but please, please do not be in love with him. A ragged breath escapes my lips. All the anger, all the agonizing tension, the sheer crushing exhaustion of the past 2 years entirely evaporates, replaced by a blinding, overwhelming heat. You are an absolute idiot, I whisper fiercely. Before he can lift his head to process the insult, I grab the front of his shirt. I pull him forward, closing the distance between us, and crash my lips against his. Caleb freezes. For a split second, he is completely paralyzed by shock, and then he erupts. A guttural, desperate groan tears from his throat. His massive hands fly up, abandoning my wrist to grip the back of my neck and my waist. He pulls me flush against his solid chest, kissing me back with a staggering, ravenous intensity. It is not a soft, cinematic first kiss. It is messy, frantic, and entirely unhinged. Teeth clash, breaths mingle. He tastes like salt and sheer desperation. He kisses me like he is starving his tongue, sweeping into my mouth, his fingers tangling roughly in my hair. The sheer force of it pushes me backward until my back hits the mattress, and he is completely hovering over me, his weight caging me in his lips, never leaving mine. I wrap my arms tightly around his broad shoulders, pulling him down, kissing him back with every ounce of the silent longing I have harbored since freshman year. He whimpers against my mouth, a deeply vulnerable, needy sound that sends a violent shiver down my spine. When we finally break apart, we are both gasping for air. Caleb's forehead drops against mine, his chest heaving, his eyes searching my face in the dark with wild, disbelieving wonder. I was never in love with him, Caleb. I pant, my fingers tracing the sharp line of his jaw. I only said yes because I wanted you to stop me. Caleb lets out a wet, breathless laugh, burying his face into the crook of my neck, inhaling the deep scent of cedarwood. He kisses the sensitive skin beneath my ear, his body finally entirely relaxing against mine. I reach a blind hand up to my nightstand, my fingers finding the cold metal of my phone. The screen lights up the dark room. Caleb tenses slightly above me, lifting his head to look at the screen. I open Discord. I find Tyler's message from earlier. Hope you sorted out. You are a catch. Without hesitating, I type a quick reply. I sorted it out. Thanks for everything, Ty. I hit send. And then, right in front of Caleb's wide watching eyes, I tap the settings icon and hit block user. I toss the phone back onto the desk, the room plunging into darkness again. I look up at the massive frat boy hovering above me, a smug, undeniable satisfaction settling deep in my chest. Game over, I whisper, wrapping my arms around his neck. Caleb growls a low, incredibly possessive sound and crashes his lips down on mine again. The next morning, I wake up to the sensation of being entirely hopelessly trapped. And for the first time in 2 years, I do not want to escape. The Boston winter is still raging outside, throwing a fresh blanket of white snow against our frosted window pane. But inside our cramped dorm room, specifically on my narrow twin bed, it feels like a literal furnace. I blink my eyes open, adjusting to the bright morning light filtering through the blinds. I'm currently plastered flush against the wall, and Caleb is completely sprawled over me. His heavy left leg is hooked over my thighs, his massive arm is wrapped securely around my waist, and his face is buried so deeply into the crook of my neck, I can feel his eyelashes fluttering against my skin. There is no pillow wall. The pathetic barrier I used to build every night is currently a pile of useless cotton on the floor. I let out a soft, contented breath, shifting slightly to relieve the cramp in my shoulder. The movement instantly wakes him. Caleb groans a deep, gravelly sound of protest and tightens his grip on my waist, pulling me impossibly closer until there is not a single millimeter of space between us. "Do not move," he murmurs, his voice rough with sleep. His stubble scratches against my jaw as he presses a lazy, lingering kiss directly over my pulse point. "It is freezing out there. We live here now." Caleb. I laugh softly, my hands coming up to tangle in his messy dark curls. "It is almost 11. We missed our morning lectures." "Good," he mumbles, finally lifting his head to look at me. In the stark morning light, stripped of all the shadows and the heavy, agonizing tension of the past few weeks, he looks breathtaking. His hazel eyes are soft, warm, and entirely unguarded. There is no panic, no frantic backtracking. He just looks at me like I am the only thing in the room that matters. He shifts his weight, propping himself up on one elbow so he can look down at my face. He reaches out his thumb, gently tracing the line of my lower lip. "I meant it, you know," he says quietly, all the playful sleepiness evaporating from his tone. "Everything I said last night. I'm not freaking out. I'm not going to take it back." My chest tightens, a sudden wave of affection hitting me so hard it almost knocks the wind out of me. "Even the part where you cried on my floor," I tease, trying to deflect the overwhelming emotion. Caleb snorts an unabashed, crooked grin breaking across his face. "Especially that part. I will cry in front of the whole Alpha Delta house if it means I get to wake up like this." He pauses, his gaze dropping to my collarbone before meeting my eyes again. "I do not have it all figured out, Ash. I do not know if I am bi or gay or whatever the hell the label is, but I know I am yours, only yours, if you will still have me." I reach up, grabbing the collar of his thermal shirt, and pull him down. The kiss is slow, deep, and impossibly sweet, a far cry from the desperate, starving collision in the dark 12 hours ago. It is a promise. It is an arrival. "I have been yours since freshman year, you idiot," I whisper against his lips. Caleb lets out a breathless laugh, kissing me once more before finally rolling off the bed. The sudden loss of his body heat makes me shiver. "Stay in bed," he commands, grabbing a pair of sweatpants from his closet. "I am going to order us breakfast, but first, I need your laptop." I frown, pulling the heavy blankets up to my chin. "Why?" "Because I have unfinished business," he declares cryptically. I watch in amusement as the massive, muscular frat boy squeezes himself into my small desk chair. He boots up my laptop, his fingers aggressively clicking the mouse. I assume he is checking his email or maybe looking up a diner, so I close my eyes, perfectly content to sink back into the mattress and let the scent of his cedarwood linger on my skin. A few minutes later, the unmistakable loud synthetic ping of an Apex Legends lobby starting up echoes through the room. I pop my eyes open, sitting up in bed. "Are you playing ranked on my account?" "Just making a purchase," Caleb says, his tone dripping with sheer, unadulterated smugness. I throw off the blankets, padding across the cold hardwood floor in my socks, and peer over his broad shoulder. My jaw drops. Caleb has his credit card sitting on the desk. On the screen, my main support character is now wearing the rarest, most ridiculously expensive legendary skin in the store, something I had been complaining about, being too broke to buy for months. "Caleb, that skin is $40. I gape. "Worth every penny," he says, entirely unbothered. He clicks over to my friends list on the EA app. He finds Tyler's username. Before I can stop him, Caleb's fingers fly across the keyboard, typing a message directly into the chat log. "Hey senior, thanks for carrying Ash in ranked, but his boyfriend is going to take it from here. Find your own support." He hits send, and then with a devastatingly satisfied click of the mouse, he hits unfriend. "Caleb." I burst out laughing, shoving his shoulder. "I already blocked him on Discord last night. You did not have to cyberbully the guy on my gaming client. I am establishing dominance, Ash. It is a primal instinct." Caleb replies deadpan, though the massive golden retriever grin on his face completely betrays him. He pushes the chair back, turning around to pull me by the hips until I am standing directly between his knees. He wraps his arms around my waist, resting his cheek against my stomach, looking up at me with those bright, unapologetic hazel eyes. "No more online, guys," he murmurs, his voice dropping an octave, slipping right back into that possessive, heavy tone that used to drive me insane. "No more dates with law students. You are stuck with a meathead frat boy who plays terrible defense in Apex." I run my fingers through his dark curls, the last remaining knot of anxiety in my chest completely dissolving into the quiet morning air. I think I can live with that. I smile. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of making things work. For 2 agonizing years, I thought I was torturing myself by falling in love with a straight, clueless, overbearing roommate. But looking down at him, now feeling the absolute undeniable security in the way his arms hold me, I realize I would not trade him for anything. He might be loud, he might be ridiculous, but he is entirely, completely mine.